You've felt it. You're alone in a room, reading, working, half asleep, and something makes you turn around. There's nobody there. There is almost never anybody there. Your brain will fire this alarm thousands of times across your life, in empty hallways, in dark parking lots, in your own bedroom at 2 in the morning, and it will be wrong nearly every single time. Which raises a question nobody bothers to ask. Why would evolution build a system that is wrong this often and keep it? Why has it survived 300,000 years of ruthless editing without being switched off? The answer is far stranger than a sixth sense. Let's start with your eyes. Look at any other primate on this planet. A chimpanzee, a gorilla, a macaque. Their eyes are almost entirely dark. The white part, the sclera, is pigmented and hidden. You cannot easily tell where a chimpanzee is looking. Now look at a human. Bright white sclera. A dark iris sitting in the middle of it like a target. Our eyes broadcast our attention across a room. From 20 feet away, you can tell whether a stranger is looking at your face or over your shoulder. We are the only primate that does this. Evolution built us a set of eyes that give away exactly where we are pointed, and it built the receiver to match. Deep in your brain, in a fold called the superior temporal sulcus, sits a bundle of neurons whose only job is to determine one thing. Is that thing looking at me? It runs constantly. It runs on faces, on animals, on drawings, on the 2 dots and a line that make up a smiley face. It fires before you are aware of anything. Newborns as young as 2 days old will stare longer at a face that is looking back at them. In 2013, 2 vision scientists, Colin Clifford and Isabel Marichal, decided to test what this system does when the information runs out. They showed people faces with the eyes obscured, blurred, ambiguous, uncertain. Just enough detail to know a face was there, not enough to know where it was aimed. Under those conditions, the brain has a default. It assumes you are being watched. That is the finding. When the data is bad, when the light is low, when the face is turned away, your gaze detection system does not shrug and go quiet. It leans. Being watched is not a conclusion your brain arrives at. It is the position it starts from, and it needs evidence to be talked out of it, which is uncomfortable enough on its own. But detecting a gaze is one thing. There is a face there. There are eyes. There is something to be wrong about. Feeling a presence when there is nobody to detect at all is something else entirely. In 2014, a neuroscientist named Olaf Blanke, working at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, built a machine to manufacture a ghost. He had been studying patients with neurological damage who reported something specific and strange. Not hallucinations, not voices, a presence. A conviction that a person was standing nearby, usually just behind them, usually with an intent. Patients could describe where it stood. They could not describe what it looked like because it was never in front of them. Blanke noticed the damage clustered in 3 regions, all of them involved in the same task, working out where your body ends and the world begins. So he tried to break that system in healthy people. Participants were blindfolded. In front of them was a robotic arm they could move with their hands. Behind them was a second robot arm, which reproduced their exact movement against their back. When the touch on the back arrived instantly, nothing happened. It felt like their own finger. Then Blanke introduced a delay, half a second, 500 milliseconds between the movement of the hand in front and the touch on the back behind. That is all it took. 1 in 3 participants reported that somebody else was in the room with them. Some felt one presence, some felt several. They described it standing behind them, close, deliberate. 2 participants asked for the experiment to be stopped. They were frightened. There was nobody in the room. The ghost was them. It was their own touch, arriving half a second too late to be filed as their own. And when the brain could not account for a signal coming from their body, it did not label it an error. It built a person. Now here is where the whole thing turns over. Everything I have described sounds like a malfunction, a system misfiring, a glitch that a better designed brain would not have. It isn't. It is the correct setting. In 2006, 2 evolutionary psychologists, Marty Hazelton and Daniel Nettle, laid out the logic in a paper on what they called error management theory. The argument is simple, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Any detection system can fail in 2 directions. It can tell you something is there when nothing is, a false alarm, or it can tell you nothing is there when something is, a miss. For most of the alarms in your life, Those two mistakes cost about the same, but not this one. The cost of a false alarm is that you turn around in an empty room, feel briefly stupid, and go back to what you were doing. You lose 4 seconds and a little dignity. The cost of a miss is that you are eaten. Those are not symmetrical. They are not even close. A brain that is wrong 99 times and right once will outsurvive a brain that is perfectly calibrated every single time over 300,000 years, without exception. So the system was never tuned for accuracy, it was tuned for asymmetry. It was built to be wrong in the cheap direction, which means the paranoid ones lived, the calm ones, the ones who did not turn around, the ones whose brains politely waited for sufficient evidence before raising an alarm, are not your ancestors. They did not become anybody's ancestors. You are descended, without exception, from a very long line of people who turned around. Now, I want to be fair to the other explanation, because it is a good one. There is a much less interesting version of all of this, and it covers a lot of ground. You have peripheral vision that registers movement without ever reaching conscious awareness. You have hearing that picks up a floorboard, a breath, a shift in the air, and routes it below the level of thought. When you are anxious or tired or in the dark, all of these systems run hot. And then there is memory. You forget the 400 times you felt watched and nobody was there. You remember vividly the one time you turned around and somebody was. There is also the claim that this is real, that there is a genuine sense, an actual field, a way of detecting attention at a distance. The biologist Rupert Sheldrake spent years running experiments on it and reported positive results. They did not survive scrutiny. The psychologist Robert Baker ran controlled versions and found nothing. Independent replications found nothing. When you remove the ways participants can guess, the effect evaporates. The boring explanation is almost certainly the right one. Bad light, sharp ears, a jumpy brain, and a memory that keeps score unfairly. Almost certainly. Because there is one thing the boring explanation does not touch. Why does it have a location? A smoke alarm goes off. It does not tell you the fire is a man standing 4 feet behind your left shoulder, watching you and slightly annoyed. But that is what your brain does. The felt presence has a position, a distance, sometimes a mood. Mountaineers above 8,000 meters report a companion climbing beside them, and they know exactly which side. People in sleep paralysis describe a figure in the doorway, and they can tell you which doorway. Solo sailors, polar explorers, people in extreme isolation all report the same thing, and they all report it with coordinates. They call it the third man factor. Your brain is not just raising an alarm, it is drawing someone, giving them a place to stand and a reason to be standing there. And it does this with no data at all. There is a machine in your skull that has spent 300,000 years learning to invent a person out of an empty room, because the ancestors who did not invent that person were never around long enough to have children. It is running right now. It ran while you were watching this, and tonight, when the light is low and something makes you turn around, it will be wrong, probably.